There's a quiet migration happening in America right now, and nobody's putting it on the evening news. Millions of Black Americans are packing up and moving back to the exact southern towns their grandparents ran away from a century ago. This video is the map. 12 small southern cities where Black retirees are trading traffic jams, city sirens, and $4,000 apartment rent for front porches, sweet tea, and a mortgage that costs less than a parking spot in Brooklyn. We're talking about a town that's 76% Black where historic homes sell for pocket change. A golf paradise with a dark little secret it doesn't put in the brochures. A coastal city so pretty they filmed Forrest Gump there. A place where an enslaved man stole a Confederate warship, sailed it to freedom, and later got elected to Congress. A city with 2 Black colleges sitting directly across the street from each other. And a tax break so generous the state is basically paying you to relax on your porch. So hit that subscribe button right now, because if you scroll past this and end up retiring next to a freeway on ramp, that's on you. I warned you. Now let's back up for a second, because this whole thing has a wild backstory. Between 1910 and 1970, about 6 million Black Americans fled the South to escape Jim Crow, crowding onto trains headed for Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland, and New York. It was one of the biggest internal movements of people this country has ever seen, and it reshaped America. But somewhere along the way, the North got expensive, cold, and honestly, kind of mean. The factories closed, the rent tripled, the winters stayed brutal, and the property taxes in places like New Jersey and Illinois started eating pensions alive. Meanwhile, the South those families had fled had quietly changed. The Jim Crow signs came down. Black mayors, sheriffs, and city councils rose up. Black colleges kept thriving, and the cost of living stayed a fraction of what it was up north. So the grandkids and great-grandkids started doing the math, and the math kept pointing south. For a lot of them, it wasn't only about money. It was about walking into a church, a barbershop, or a grocery store, and finally seeing faces that looked like theirs. Today, roughly 58% of Black Americans live in southern states, and a huge chunk of the people leading this reverse migration are retirees, chasing warm weather, cheap homes, low taxes, and a community that actually feels like theirs. Here's why that last part matters so much. The typical white household retires with about $285,000 in net worth. For the typical Black household, that number is closer to $45,000. So finding a place where every dollar stretches is not a luxury. It's the whole game. These 12 towns are where retirees are winning it. Let's count them down. Number 12, Southern Pines and Pinehurst, North Carolina. We're opening with a curveball, and I want you to hear me out. Picture rolling pine forests, quiet sandhill streets, and rocking chairs on wide, shaded porches. Southern Pines has only about 15,000 people, and together with Pinehurst and Aberdeen, it forms one of the most famous retirement pockets in the entire South. Ranked as North Carolina's top micropolitan area, this place is nicknamed the home of American golf, with more than 40 courses, including the legendary Pinehurst No. 2, which has hosted the U.S. Open multiple times. The village of Pinehurst itself was laid out by Frederick Law Olmsted's firm, the same designers behind New York's Central Park, so the whole town feels like a landscaped garden. This is also horse country, with equestrian farms and steeplechase events scattered across the rolling sandhills, and the mild 4-season climate means you get real autumn color without ever facing a brutal northern winter. If your dream retirement involves 18 holes, a nap, and a walk through the Weymouth Woods Nature Preserve, this is paradise. Now here's the dark honesty, because this channel doesn't do brochure fantasy. The Black population here is smaller, closer to 17%, and the history is complicated. Southern Pines was once a sundown town, and the beautiful resorts were built by a Black workforce that lived in nearby communities like Taylortown, which remains majority African American to this day. So why does it make the list? Because the Gulf country calm is genuinely unmatched. The climate is mild, the crime is low, and for the right retiree who wants pure quiet and doesn't mind driving 30 or 40 minutes to Fayetteville or Durham for a larger Black congregation and community, it absolutely belongs on your radar. Homes here aren't the cheapest on this list since golf and retirees drive up demand, but the safety, the scenery, and the sheer calm are worth a serious look. That's the kind of nuance most lists skip. We don't. Number 11. Beaufort, South Carolina. Say it right, it's Beaufort. And yes, the locals will absolutely correct you. This is a tiny coastal jewel of about 13,000 people, the second oldest city in South Carolina, chartered all the way back in 1711. Moss-draped oak trees hang over waterfront streets that look like a movie set, mostly because they are one. They filmed Forrest Gump and The Great Santini right here in the Lowcountry, along Bay Street and out on the Sea Islands. But the real reason Beaufort matters for black retirees is the history and the heritage. This is the home turf of Robert Smalls, an enslaved man who in 1862 commandeered a Confederate steamship, sailed his family straight to freedom past the harbor guns, and later returned to Beaufort to serve 5 terms in the United States Congress. He is buried right here, and his story alone tells you everything about the depth of black roots in this town. Think about that for a second. A man born into slavery in this very place came back to it as a free congressman and a landowner. That is the kind of history you can feel walking down the street. The surrounding sea islands are the beating heart of Gullah Geechee culture, and on St. Helena Island you'll find the Penn Center, one of the first schools in the country built for formerly enslaved people. The food, the language, and the community here are unlike anywhere else in America, and every year the Gullah festivals bring the whole culture to life with music, sweetgrass baskets, and low-country cooking. Life here runs on shrimp boats and tides, not honking horns, and nearby Paris Island keeps a steady flow of military families and retirees in the area. The honest catch is the price. Beaufort is coastal, so median home values sit around $390,000, and the city proper skews wider than the islands around it. But South Carolina doesn't tax your Social Security, the winters are gentle, and if a walkable, warm, history-soaked town is your speed, few places on earth compete. Number 10. Florence, South Carolina. Now we're getting into serious value territory, and this is where your retirement dollar starts doing backflips. Florence is a genuinely small city of about 40,000 people, sitting right at the crossroads of Interstate 20 and Interstate 95 in the PD region. Here's a detail retirees love. It sits almost exactly halfway between New York and Florida on the 95 corridor, which means the kids and grandkids passing through have zero excuse not to stop and visit. Nearly half the population here is black, so the community is established, deep-rooted, and easy to plug into through churches, clubs, and everyday local life. And the affordability will make a New Yorker weep into their overpriced coffee. The cost of living runs around 13% below the national average. Median home values hover near $160,000, and property taxes are gentle at roughly 2/3 of 1%. That is not a typo. Florence also punches way above its weight on healthcare, with McLeod Regional Medical Center and Musk Health Florence both anchoring the region, which matters enormously when you're planning for your later years. The black church community here is strong and welcoming, the kind of place where a newcomer gets invited to Sunday dinner within a week. You've got Francis Marion University in town, Morris College, a historically black college just up the road in Sumter, and a downtown that's been quietly revitalizing with new restaurants and an arts scene. The revitalized downtown around the Doctors Bruce and Lee Foundation Library and the local Performing Arts Center has quietly become a walkable little hub of restaurants and galleries, the kind of place where you actually run into people you know. It's warm, it's calm, the commutes are about 20 minutes on a bad day, and there's not a rush hour horror story in sight. Compared to the sensory overload of a northern city, the loudest thing you'll hear most evenings is the cicadas. This is small-town Southern, living without the isolation. Number 9. Newport News, Virginia. If that sounds good, keep watching, because this one only gets better. Newport News is a peninsula city of about 183,000 people, and roughly 40% of them are black. It hugs the James River with waterfront parks, a slower coastal rhythm, and a cost of living about 6% below the national average, with median home values near $270,000. This is the birthplace of the legendary jazz singer Ella Fitzgerald, the First Lady of Song herself, so the city's cultural roots run deep. It's also home to the Mariners Museum, the largest maritime museum in North America, wrapped inside a 500-acre park with a 5-mile shaded trail around a lake, which is exactly the kind of easy, peaceful walk retirees dream about. For decades, this city has been represented in Congress by longtime lawmaker Bobby Scott, and it sits right next door to Hampton, home of a legendary black university we'll get to in a minute. The city is anchored by Newport News Shipbuilding, the largest industrial employer in Virginia, and the yard that builds the Navy's aircraft carriers, which gives the whole area a stable, working-class backbone rather than a boom-and-bust feel. Historic neighborhoods like Hilton Village offer charming, tree-lined streets at prices that would be laughable in the Northeast. Healthcare is solid thanks to Riverside Regional Medical Center. And here's the money detail. Virginia does not tax your Social Security benefits and offers an age deduction of up to $12,000 once you hit 65. Most people never think to put Newport News on a retirement list, and that's exactly why the deals are still here. Quiet water views, a strong black community, a jazz legacy, real hospitals, and a tax code that doesn't punish you for retiring. That combination is rarer than you'd think. Number 8. Macon, Georgia. Let me tell you about a city that gave the world Little Richard, Otis Redding, and the Allman Brothers, and then charged almost nothing to live there. Macon sits about 85 miles south of Atlanta, close enough for a big city day trip and a major airport, far enough to skip the traffic that makes grown adults weep on the interstate. The consolidated Macon-Bibb population is around 152,000 in a majority black county, and the affordability is almost suspicious. Recent median home sale prices have run near $200,000, with a cost of living a few points below the national average. The city is soaked in black music history. There's an Otis Redding statue down by the river, the old Capricorn Sound Studios where soul and southern rock were born, and the Tubman Museum, one of the largest museums dedicated to African American art, history, and culture in the entire Southeast. Georgia is also where the tax math gets fun. The state does not tax Social Security, and it lets each person exclude up to $65,000 of retirement income once you turn 65. That's not a discount. That's a hug. Macon is genuinely stunning every spring, when the Cherry Blossom Festival and its hundreds of thousands of blooming trees turn the whole city pink, earning it the nickname the Cherry Blossom Capital of the World. The ancient Ocmulgee Mounds, sacred to the Muskogee people, sit right on the edge of town, and Mercer University keeps a college town energy humming downtown. Best of all, Macon moves at a pace that lets you breathe. You can cross the whole city in the time it takes to sit through a single Atlanta traffic light. The honest note, because we always give it, is a higher poverty rate, around 25%, so you'll want to choose your neighborhood carefully and visit before you buy. Do that homework, and your dollar stretches further here than almost anywhere else on this list. Number 7. Fayetteville, North Carolina. This one is a love letter to black military retirees, and I know there are a lot of you watching. Fayetteville is built around Fort Liberty, the enormous army base formerly known as Fort Bragg and home of the 82nd Airborne. And the city counts more than 24,000 veterans among its residents. If you served, this place speaks your language before you even unpack. The population is about 208,000, roughly 42% black, and the cost of living sits comfortably below the national average, well under what you'd pay in Charlotte or Raleigh. Healthcare is a genuine strength, with Womack Army Medical Center on base plus Cape Fear Valley Medical Center in town, so your veteran benefits and civilian care are both covered. You've got Fayetteville State University, a historically black school founded back in 1867, keeping the cultural and educational energy alive, plus the Airborne and Special Operations Museum downtown and a revitalized Cool Spring Arts District. Downtown has come alive around Segra Stadium, where the minor league Woodpeckers play summer ball on warm evenings, and the Cape Fear River Trail gives you miles of quiet walking. The climate is warm and humid subtropical, the growing season is long enough for a serious garden, and there's a built-in community of people who understand exactly where you've been and what you've carried. I'll be honest that a base town has some transients and a few rougher pockets, so pick your neighborhood with intention. Do that, and the value here is tremendous. For a retiree who wants camaraderie, affordability, and real medical support in the same package, Fayetteville is genuinely hard to beat. Number 6. Hampton, Virginia. Pay attention to this next part, because Hampton might hold more black history per square mile than anywhere else on this list. This coastal city of about 137,000 people is nearly half black, and it's home to Hampton University, founded in 1868, one of the most prestigious historically black universities in the country. Its most famous early graduate was a young man named Booker T. Washington. On campus stands the Emancipation Oak, a sprawling tree where the Emancipation Proclamation was first read to the black community of the South, now recognized as a National Historic Landmark. Just down the road sits Fort Monroe, the exact spot where the first enslaved Africans arrived in Virginia in 1619, and where, during the Civil War, escaping enslaved people found protection at a place they nicknamed Freedom's Fortress. That is sacred ground. But Hampton isn't only history. This is the birthplace of America's space program, where NASA Langley trained the first astronauts, and where the real-life Mary Jackson from Hidden Figures did her groundbreaking work. It's also the hometown of basketball icon Allen Iverson. Beyond all that, it's a legitimately great place to grow older. Waterfront neighborhoods, the sandy stretch of Buckrow Beach, short 18-minute commutes, Centara hospitals nearby, and Virginia's retiree-friendly tax rules. Median home values sit in a reasonable range near the national average. The historic Hampton Coliseum has hosted decades of legendary concerts. The Air and Space Center downtown is a genuine draw, and the whole Hampton Roads area is laced with waterways that keep the pace slow and the views wide open. It's heritage, salt air, and space history all in one town, and you can feel your blood pressure drop the moment you reach the water. For a black retiree, there's something profound about growing old on the very ground where freedom in America began. You wake up every day surrounded by the proof that your people have always been builders, thinkers, pioneers, and survivors. That's not just a nice view. That's a legacy you get to live inside. If you're still watching this far in, do me one favor and tap that like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who need this exact list, and it costs you nothing but a fingertip. Seriously, one tap and you've done more for someone's retirement than most financial advisors do all year. All right, back to it, because the top 5 is where things get really good, and the top 3 are the ones people move for. Number 5, Durham, North Carolina. This is holy ground for Black America, so let's talk about it with the respect it deserves. Durham was once home to the original Black Wall Street, centered in the historic Haiti district, a thriving world of Black-owned banks, insurance companies, barbershops, and businesses anchored by the mighty North Carolina Mutual Life Insurance Company, once the largest Black-owned business in the country. And this legacy isn't just a plaque on a wall. Mechanics and Farmers Bank, founded here in 1907, is still a Black-owned institution operating today. Durham has about 283,000 people, roughly 40% Black, plus North Carolina Central University, a historically Black university founded in 1910. The healthcare here is world-class, because Duke University Hospital is one of the top-ranked hospitals in the entire nation, which is a serious selling point when you're planning your later decades. The city is walkable, culturally rich, and packed with life. From the American Tobacco campus to the Durham Performing Arts Center, one of the most attended theaters in the whole country. Now the honest part, because you know it's coming. Durham is the priciest pick on this list. Median home values have climbed toward $400,000, and gentrification is real, so this is the splurge option. The famous Durham Farmers Market, the leafy historic neighborhoods, and one of the strongest Black professional and academic communities in the South are all part of the package. And if you or your spouse want to keep one foot in part-time work, the jobs of Research Triangle Park are right next door. The soul food and the barbecue here are legendary. The Black-owned business scene is thriving again, and North Carolina Central home games give the whole city that unmistakable SPU energy every fall. But if you want a mid-sized city with elite medicine, deep Black history, great food, and genuine energy, Durham earns every single dollar. Number 4, Columbia, South Carolina. Here's a stat that stops people cold. In Columbia, 2 historically Black colleges, Benedict College and Allen University, sit directly across the street from each other, both founded back in 1870. That is the kind of concentrated Black educational history you almost never find anywhere in America. Columbia is the state capital, with about 136,000 people in the city and 40% of them Black, and it delivers big city amenities without a shred of big city chaos. The nickname is Soda City, and every Saturday the Soda City Market fills Main Street with local vendors, food, and music. The University of South Carolina keeps the whole place young and lively. The top-ranked Riverbanks Zoo draws families from across the region. And 3 rivers, the Congaree, the Broad, and the Saluda, run right through town, with the old-growth wilderness of Congaree National Park just a short drive away. The cost of living runs around 10 to 13% below the national average, with median home values near $265,000 and commutes that average about 16 minutes. Fort Jackson, the Army's largest training installation, sits right in the city and keeps a large community of Black veterans and retirees nearby. Healthcare is handled by the large Prisma Health hospital system, and with the University of South Carolina Medical School in town, specialists are never far. For the outdoorsy retiree, you can be canoeing a quiet river or hiking under 1,000-year-old cypress trees in Congaree National Park within half an hour. Yes, the summers are famously hot, so bring your sweet tea. But add in South Carolina's tax break on Social Security, and you get a capital city that somehow still feels like a big, friendly, walkable town. That's a rare and beautiful thing. Number 3. Augusta, Georgia. Welcome to the hometown of the godfather of soul himself, James Brown, who has a bronze statue standing proudly right in the middle of downtown. Augusta is famous worldwide for one green week every April, when it hosts the Masters Golf Tournament at Augusta National, but for the other 51 weeks it's a calm, affordable, Black majority city of about 200,000 people, roughly 57% Black. It runs at a fraction of Atlanta's speed and stress. This city is also a certified medical hub, sometimes called a medical city, anchored by Augusta University Medical Center, a major academic hospital, plus the Joseph M. Still Burn Center, one of the largest burn centers in the country. When healthcare is one of your town's biggest industries, that's exactly what you want as a retiree. On the cultural side, Payne College, founded in 1882, carries a proud legacy, and its governing board is often described as the oldest interracial board of its kind in the nation. The Lucy Craft Laney Museum preserves the city's rich Black history, and opera legend Jesse Norman called Augusta home. Homes are affordable. The cost of living dips below the national average. Georgia's retirement tax exclusion keeps more money in your pocket, and nearby Fort Eisenhower brings a strong veteran community. The mild climate means golf and gardening nearly year-round, and the pace outside of Masters Week is refreshingly slow. Like several picks on this list, Augusta has neighborhoods with real economic struggle, so you'll want to explore before you buy. But the strong ones offer beautiful historic homes and quiet, tree-lined streets at a fraction of big city prices, with a warm, welcoming Black community that has called Augusta home for generations. Stroll the Riverwalk along the Savannah River at sunset, and you'll understand why so many retirees are quietly choosing Augusta over the big metros. Number 2. Savannah, Georgia, and no, I am not exaggerating when I say this might be the single prettiest city on the entire list. Savannah is America's first planned city, laid out in a gorgeous grid of leafy public squares draped in Spanish moss. And it's a Black majority city, about 51%, with a population near 147,000. That means an established, deep-rooted community wrapped inside one of the most beautiful historic districts in the country. It's home to Savannah State University, the oldest public historically Black university in all of Georgia, founded in 1890. The Black history here is profound. The First African Baptist Church downtown is one of the oldest Black congregations in North America and served as a stop on the Underground Railroad, with markings still visible in its floorboards. Just outside town, the Pinpoint community preserves Gullah Geechee traditions and happens to be the birthplace of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. Healthcare is strong, with Memorial Health serving as a Level 1 trauma center. The cost of living sits about 4% below the national average. Median home values run in the range of $250,000 to $300,000. And Georgia's tax code stays generous. No Social Security tax, plus that $65,000 retirement exclusion. Forsyth Park with its iconic fountain, the shops and seafood of River Street, and the wide beaches of nearby Tybee Island are all right there. The climate is warm and coastal, so winter barely registers, and you can spend February morning walks in a light jacket while your friends up north are still shoveling their driveways. At under 150,000 people, Savannah stays walkable and manageable while giving you coastal charm, culture, and history on every corner. The one honest trade-off is that Savannah's beauty draws serious tourism, so the very center can get busy in peak season. and prices in the most historic blocks climb accordingly. But settle into one of the quieter residential neighborhoods just outside the tourist core, and you get all the charm with none of the crowds. If you want to retire somewhere that feels like a warm hug with a southern accent, this is it. And now, number 1. Petersburg, Virginia. This is the deep roots pick, and it might just be the most quietly powerful choice on the entire list. Petersburg is a small city of about 33,000 people, and here is the number that changes everything. It is roughly 76% black, making it one of the blackest cities in all of Virginia. This is not a place where you'll ever feel like the only one in the room. This is home. The black history here goes back generations. Pocahontas Island, right in the city, is one of the oldest free black communities in the entire United States, where free African Americans lived, worked, and built lives long before emancipation. During the Civil War, United States colored troops fought and bled at the Siege of Petersburg, now preserved as a national battlefield. Just across the Appomattox River sits Virginia State University, founded in 1882, the first fully state-supported four-year college for black Americans in the country. And the homes? The historic architecture here is stunningly affordable. Some of the cheapest quality housing on this entire list, block after block of old brick row houses, Victorian details, and wide porches waiting for someone to love them again. For a retiree with a little vision and some sweat equity, you can buy and restore a piece of genuine American history for a price that would barely cover a down payment in most northern cities. Richmond and its major specialty hospitals sit only 21 miles up the road. I'll give you the honest caveat, because I always do. Petersburg has a higher poverty rate, around 21%, and the city has weathered real financial and infrastructure challenges over the years. But for a black retiree who wants deep community, walkable history, unbeatable home prices, and a place where the culture is simply the air you breathe, nothing else on this list delivers quite like Petersburg. You can spend your mornings on a restored front porch, your Sundays in a church that has stood for over a century, and your afternoons walking streets where free black families made history long before it was safe to. It is the reverse migration distilled into one small, proud, affordable city. So here's what all 12 of these places quietly have in common. A century ago, the South was the place black families ran from, packing suitcases in the dark and boarding trains north with nothing but hope. Today, it's the place they are running back to, and not out of nostalgia, but because the math, the weather, the taxes, and the community finally add up. From the Gulf greens of Pinehurst to the Gullah shores of Beaufort, from the space program history of Hampton to the music-soaked streets of Macon, from the moss-draped squares of Savannah to the deep ancestral roots of Petersburg, the smartest retirement move in America right now might be the one your grandparents never imagined you'd make: going home. And doing it with a paid-off house, a shorter commute, warmer winters, and a whole lot more peace. Whichever of these 12 calls to you, the common thread is the same. You worked your whole life for this next chapter. You deserve to spend it somewhere the money stretches, the pace slows down, and the community already feels like family. The big cities had their turn. This is yours. If this list helped you picture your own next chapter, subscribe and stick around, because this channel drops a fresh dose of the best places to live, retire, and stretch your money every single week. Your future porch is waiting. Don't keep it waiting too long.